Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now September 10th of 2023, and there's a lot of things to talk about when it comes to Bob Iger, the Disney Board of Directors, and even, of course, director Marc Webb of Snow White 2024. And we already know that D23 has been a pretty big disaster, and we already know that Bob Iger, the board of directors, really wanted to have a lot of announcements this year, let alone have a real D23 event that ended up not even really happening for 2023. So now they're all scrambling based on when they really want to promote all of their movies, be it Snow White 2024 or any of the up-and-coming Disney movies in general, to really get them out there. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. And let's get right into the subject. Now, we know that Marc Webb is someone that has been having quite a number of difficulties behind the scenes for the upcoming Snow White film. He has had his struggles with Rachel Zegler. We talked about this. They don't really get all along too well behind the scenes, either while they were filming or even during post. There's been a lot of drama, to put it short, between many of the cast members and even Marc Webb, plus the writers. Now, we know that everything related to Marc Webb has been pretty much a train wreck at this point in time. Disney has been forcing him to re-edit the entire movie. He's having the editors work on this film to improve the pacing, to downgrade the running time of the movie, to take out specific scenes, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. However, with Snow White director Marc Webb endlessly attempting to course-correct Snow White behind the scenes through re-edits passed down by Disney to no avail, one major development has to do with Marc Webb and his view of the backlash. Webb went on to deliver the following. Well, hey, it's 2023 right now, and I think that most people have forgotten about Snow White 1937 anyway. We have one or two generations that most likely never even watched the original, so it was Disney's goal and my own to put a modern spin on this tale to gravitate it toward universally other people around the globe, and not just to those that grew up with the original. I would be lying if I had not noticed the backlash over this film, and all I can really say is that it is flat out disgusting and disrespectful over how people reject a piece of art before it was even in theaters as of yet. It's in our best interest to rid of the source material so that we could pretty much have our own freedom with the story. And so, of course, we expected many to reject those ideas that we had. We were ready for it, and I just think people need to accept it for what it is. It's one of Disney's finest creations yet, and it's got a real dark and gritty tone to it that we shot for. Now guys, let me just stop here for one moment before I get to the next thing that Webb discusses about Snow White. So basically what he is putting it out there is that this movie intentionally and deliberately ditched the source material, not just because they felt like they needed to, but they felt like they had to do it because they felt that the past two generations did not grow up with this movie properly, or have not even watched Snow White 1937. I don't know about you guys, but I think pretty much everyone out there has at least heard of Snow White, or at least has seen the movie, or even scenes of it at the very minimum. Of course, you're going to have some people that never saw a trace of that film, but when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, pretty much all people out there have knowledge of Snow White, and I see no harm in why they couldn't just retell the 1937 original. It's kind of like, what he is saying makes no sense, because if people have not seen this movie through their eyes, then what's the difference? If they haven't seen the 37 film, then it would be original to them. I don't really understand that motive. I don't understand that backing or that reason as to why they felt like they had to ditch the source material and go for something completely new. Now look, we know that there are traces, and he brings this up. He brings up that special word, traces of the original Snow White in this movie, such as the apple, stuff like that, the evil queen, a castle, just little tiny things here and there. Story-wise, this movie is very much alienating the original though, however. Now, moving onwards, he goes on to elaborate even further. I think the majority of individuals rejecting this film just have issues where artists in their vision of retelling an original piece of work or reimagining as if it's a very bad thing. To me, and many of us who worked on this film felt it was the healthiest approach for Disney to do a reimagining. We had to do it the way and this way in order to evolve the story properly. Who wants another boring tale to be told, beat for beat, that knows the plot already? I sure don't. And so, that's why the story is largely different with sprinkles of the 1937 original on top. If all you can do is bark at this movie, then maybe it's time for anyone out there doing that to just sit at home and make their own movie and tell their tale. So, look, we know that Marc Webb has always been someone that either remains very quiet or begins, what he likes to say, barking, begins to go on a little bit of a rant and gets very angry and gets really defensive. And this is typical of many directors out there. It's typical of many actors and actresses out there. Look, they're all a part of the Hollywood bubble, and 99.9% of them are usually out of their minds. It's just the honest truth, guys. I mean, you of course have some exceptions out there that I feel are really out of the Hollywood bubble sphere. You know, there's very few that I can really even think of right now. But when we look at people like Rachel Zegler and what she said about 1937 Snow White, how she felt that the prince was a creeper, how she felt that, you know, the whole love story interesting was just very strange and odd, it just goes to show you what Disney is gravitating towards and what they are trying to teach the younger audiences that go ahead and see this movie. And that's the more dangerous thing. You know, when you really think about it, these movies, you know, that are shown to younger audiences of different ages in that, you know, bracket, it is very, very much damaging if it's sending the wrong message. They grow up with this. They develop these, you know, memories about this movie, and they kind of relate that to real life at a young age. This is exactly why, by the way, parents out there, you know, don't want their children watching, you know, violent movies or violent cartoons or anything like that. There's a reason why this is done. And though it's not like that, this movie may not be violent, it is kind of focusing on their ideology and their way of thinking in Hollywood and how that's being passed down to younger audiences. That's the bigger problem, I feel. You know, it's not, you know, anything that's overblown, it's just pure truth. So when you look at stuff like Marc Webb, the fact that they don't want a whole love story, the fact that they don't want to focus on the prince saving Snow White and all of this nonsense, it just goes to show you that they want to create a warped view of what Snow White really is about. And look, I'm always about defending pop culture and always defending about what multiple generations grew up with. That's why I feel the way that I feel about Snow White. You know, some people may not like the fact that, you know, you have an older person talking about Snow White, but the truth of it all is, it's about defending pop culture, it's about defending, you know, what is, you know, true and what is right in this world. So anyway, guys, drop a comment below, fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again.